Hello folks, welcome to Indies Under the Knife. I'm here at the clinic, travelling backwards down a hallway with one arm because of my cheap green screen. I've had people complain about my green screen. Someone once said, it's very distracting. It is just like the built-in one on the camera where you can set the background. And I set the background to a plain green, just JPEG, and then I green screen the JPEG out on OBS. But yeah, it's still very lo-fi, and the reason for that is this channel does not make loads of money. I'm very grateful to everyone who supports this channel on Patreon and is part of our Discord community. Thank you so much. Thank you also to everyone who bought Chris Zukowski's games marketing course off of my affiliate links earlier in the week. That has been super helpful to me and hopefully will be even more helpful to you because you're getting a course out of it. But if you have any questions about why does my green screen look so rubbish and stuff like that? It's because I don't have a lot of money. I currently make less than UK minimum wage on this channel. And Rondell in the chat says I look better without an arm anyway, which is kind of cool. I think what I really need to do is get a gun. Just a big, like Barrett from Final Fantasy VII. Just a big machine gun arm. Just to mix the messages, really. I'm a doctor, I'm here in a hospital, we're playing games, and for some reason I've got a gun for an arm. I don't know. It's not very consistent branding, but when have I ever been about the consistent branding? Yeah, patrons get access to the 2-arm version. I don't think that's a good thing to promote as a patron special because it feels a bit ableist. But this is Indies Under the Knife. This is the stream I do every Thursday where folks send their games in and I play them. And I try to give productive feedback. That's why during this stream I only cover games that are not sort of fully commercially released yet. I try and give feedback you can actually use and straddle the line between just giving my kind of personal take on the game because game design is subjective, creative direction is subjective. And also just kind of general observations about game design and how I think the certain things in the game will be received. So today we've got 3 games that all have something in common because I try and theme these streams so it's not just random games that I've picked off the list. That does mean if you've sent me a game, if you send me a game this week, might get played next month, might get played in 3 or 4 months. It really comes down to when I can find a group of games to bundle up and put in a stream together. And the theme of the stream today is that all of these games have something of the 90s jRPG about them. We have got Astral Arena, Eclipse Breaker, and Dark Cards of Candlewood. And I think I'm going to play Eclipse Breaker first, then Astral Arena, and then Dark Cards of Candlewood. But I had a look at these on the last stream at the end, and my kind of first impressions really are that Eclipse Breaker looks like I don't know how many people worked on this, but there's an interview with the narrative designer. So if your team has a narrative designer, that kind of bodes well because it means that there's going to be some writing done by someone who can actually write good. And one of my pet peeves on this channel is people that insist on putting loads of story in their game, and really they are a competent programmer. Maybe they're okay at art, but they can't write for toffee, and yet they've insisted on making a game with writing in it. When I see that the game has an attached narrative designer or writer, that at least makes me think, okay, they've got someone dedicated to that element of the game. Games don't have to have story, games don't have to have dialogue. If you put those things in your game, you're making an active decision and it should be good. That said, there might be too much of it. If you've got one whole narrative designer on your team, it might mean that you add loads of story to justify having that person, but we'll see. Kind of, I don't know. I'm streaming under myself there. Shush past me. Yeah, so what they said in the submission was, a quick glance, Eclipse Breaker looks like a standard roguelike, but our combat is different than any other, we think. We've modernised the approach to the classic active time battle from 90s era JRPGs like Star Ocean, Parasite Eve, and leaned in thematically to position the game as a PlayStation era title the player paused for 25 years and now is returning to. Hopefully it won't be as confusing as that sounds, of returning to a game that you haven't played in 25 years. We've seen a pretty high median time for those engaging with the demo and game. We think we're onto something. Would love to hear your take. The build you're receiving includes all the content ready to date, where the demo is just a slice. Yeah, that's good. So I've got a key. There is a demo, but I'm not playing the demo. I'm playing the actual game, I think. One thing I would say about this is if you've got a Steam demo and you've also got a live build out of the full game, and you make quality of life improvements to the game that should be in the demo, do make sure you put them across, because at some point you're going to set your game to premium, maybe leave your demo up, and if you've made little improvements to the UX and stuff that aren't in the demo, it's going to bother people. And I've played games like that where the game has been launched, there's still a demo, and I play the demo and I see problems with the demo, and I'm like, is this actually representative of the game, or did they just not bother to update the demo? But this is still kind of in as far as I can tell, it's still in a kind of open demo stage. I mean, I think this is a weird intro. It looks like a standard roguelike. No, a standard roguelike looks like... this is what a standard roguelike looks like. That's what a standard roguelike looks like. That's a roguelike. There isn't a look. There isn't a look for roguelike games. Hades is just a top-down action game. Binding of Isaac is a top-down action game with a totally different art style and a totally different like camera angle and stuff like that. It's hard to say that something looks like a roguelike. This looks like a 90s jRPG. It doesn't look like a roguelike to me. Roguelike is like a... In most games, roguelike is treated as a sort of content creation approach rather than something that the game is visibly doing, I guess. Okay. Thank you for playing the Eclipse Breaker demo. Note that saving is disabled in this demo. This UI looks very similar to Arcane Drifter that we played a few weeks ago. Is there a UI pack that everyone's using, or is this like a text style that is taken from another popular game? Is this what the text in Hades looks like? It looks very similar. No, Hades has chunkier sort of text than this thematic text. Interesting. I mean, maybe it's just a very standard sort of Helvetica type font. Okay. Thank you, Jorge. Ember has finally arrived at the lair of her final enemy, the traitor goddess herself. She closed her eyes. Oh, had finally, sorry, we're doing. And 25 years passed. Okay, so we're actually doing it in the game. That's not just it's not just an outside sort of conceit. It's actually in the game itself. Cool. That's fun. Okay, and this is cool because look, we start at level 94. That's a really fun approach. I mean, if you're going to use that as your theme, you should go all in. If you're going to go, okay, we're in a game and it's kind of self-aware, maybe the characters maybe know they're in the game or something like that, you might as well go all in. Yeah, start me on a level 94 save. Oh, am I getting the Unreal camera thing again? Great. Oh, dear. Meanwhile, the world had gone on without her. Welcome back to Eclipse Breaker. It has been lots of hours since your last save. Applying 25 major updates. Amazing. The Divine Realm has grown loose. That music is pitch perfect for like Final Fantasy 7, 8 music. So that is so right in terms of like the instrumentation and everything. What the? Yellow? Ristia? Where is everyone? This isn't right. What the hell happened? Ember could think of one way to stem her rising dread, the same path that would set everything else right. High Goddess Solara, most revered guardian of the sun, hear my words. I'm coming to kill you. Okay, cool. We've gone all out with the jRPG jokes. We're going to go and kill God. But I think it's really interesting if you look at the bits that do look more modern and don't, right? So the UI is updated. The UI is very polished, and the character art is like vector graphics, and well, like comic book vector graphics, and looks like Hades. And then everything in the diegesis of the game is low poly, but the animations are higher quality. The ponytail swish and stuff isn't something you would have seen in a game from that period. So it's being selective. It's like doing art direction that makes you think it's this 1999 game, but it's updating it in the places that would feel really jank, and I think that's quite smart. But even that could change. No more waiting around, run, dodge and block until it's your turn to strike. Can I use a gamepad on this? Yes. Okay, good. One hit usually takes these things out. Something's off. Can't get ahead of myself. Defend first, then strike, then Solara. Okay. Take turns. You can select this whenever stamina is full. If an enemy is using ability, your abilities are added to the queue. Don't wait, queue your turn as soon as your stamina is full. Yeah, that feels like too many things to tell me in one go. I feel like that text could be subbed down. This is a good way of presenting the tutorial. But yeah, I think this is maybe just too much text in one go for a tutorial step. Okay, I'm LT to block. I've got my attacking. See, the thing is, I have not played active time battle RPGs. I played Final Fantasy up to 9, and then I stopped. And I know that, you know, jRPGs started to kind of change their combat away from that turn-based, just do you attack or do you cast a spell type thing. But I haven't played games from that era in the early 2000s because I just stopped playing them. And one of the reasons I stopped playing them is because Final Fantasy insisted on adding voiceover, which I found really off-putting. Okay, I can switch between my enemies with my right stick. This does feel much more appropriate to be playing on a controller. Get increased damage by pressing trigger as your sword strikes the enemy. Okay. Okay, so I've got a little quick time event to do extra damage when I do an attack. In fact, I think the only kind of modern JRPG style games I've really played in the last 10 years were Pirates of the Enchiridion, the Adventure Time one, because I will play any Adventure Time game, and the South Park ones. And they did this kind of mixed approach of having some real-time stuff. So my stamina is it the... Oh, it's the bar underneath my moves, maybe? So apparently I can do my ultimate. Oh. Trigger, it says on RT. So I do an attack with my normal attack button and then I do the right trigger to trigger it. I'm not sure why this is showing up at the moment. I love her run animation. Her ponytail. It's great. Let's do my ultimate. Even if I've lost everything, I still have my sword. Except when I lose my sword. Great. Upgrade found. Fire primer. Attach your primer to one of your abilities to gain its power for the remainder of this run. Your special... I just want it to use... I've put it on the attack. I just want it to be used more frequently, I guess. Yes, we've got a Parasite Eve style combat system. Not that I have ever played Parasite Eve. I might have enjoyed it, actually. I think so. There are two reasons why I stopped playing JRPGs, and one is when they started adding voiceover, and I couldn't imagine the characters as I wanted anymore, because in my head when I was playing Final Fantasy VII, Cloud Strife was just like, I'm Cloud Strife. Welcome to Final Fantasy VII, look at my big sword. But then when they started voicing over characters, it ruined that part for me. And I also just didn't like the Pokemon style, choose what to do each turn and you'll probably choose the same thing type combat system. So I think if I played more games like this, I probably would have liked them more. Solara is just through this portal. It's finally time to end this. Final Fantasy VII with Sean Bean as Cloud Strife is just much better. Sean Bean, the age he is now, with a big blonde wig on. Where am I? No, I have to get back. Ember's doubts exploded into cacophony. Fortunately, she saw a familiar foe and her instinct seized the reins. The thing is, I just don't like voice direction in anime, generally. Like, I like the voice acting in the Silent Hill 2 remake more than the original. I'm that kind of guy. I just don't like people expressing that many emotions, you know? My ideal JRPG would be everyone's from the Midlands and the voice acting is directed by Shane Meadows, who made This Is England, and have you got any Phoenix down? Yes, I need some Phoenix down. I think I'm about to die. This battle system is really cool. I think sometimes when it's showing in this area of the screen where it's showing me another button and saying press this to do this, I'm not quite sure when I should do that. But generally speaking, I'm enjoying doing this general, like, engaging with this activity, I guess. Never seen this guy before. But maybe, just maybe, those giant bullhorns could be a clue about his style. I don't know, sometimes a bullhorn is just a bullhorn. Yeah, it's not even a matter of whether the voice act... It's kind of like, you know when people say, oh, the book is better than the movie, right? And it's like, well, they're just fundamentally different things, and you enjoyed reading the book in a different way because of how reading a book makes your brain work. It's not necessarily... You could have the best movie in the world, and even if the movie was quote-unquote better than the book, you would probably have enjoyed reading the book more because of just how immersive it is to make the stuff up in your head. And yeah, and like I feel like that about voiceovers in games where I would rather have read the text a lot of the time. Because it stops me doing my main activity that I do when I play video games, which is imagining all of the characters being Sean Bean. I'm not... So, Cuckoo, I'm not like... I mean, yeah, so the 8-bit VFX, I haven't really noticed them at the moment, apart from just like... I mean, I noticed that they're there and they're doing the juice thing, but I haven't really looked at them up close since I've been playing, which is probably a good thing. I sort of see what you mean. I think it's like maybe pulling at different eras. I mean, it is sort of... It's not set in cyberspace, but we are doing this kind of glitchy thing of... I think what is happening in terms of the narrative design is that the character is stuck in a loop because the game is corrupted, and that's why we get the roguelike loop in a late 90s sort of ARPG, which is very smart narrative design. And I'm sure there are people that feel like, oh, a roguelike doesn't need to explain its loops, but I think a sort of more polished looking roguelike where it's going to attract an audience where it might be the first game of that type they play, I think should explain its loops. And all of the more polished high-end roguelites do. You know, Hades does, Rogue Legacy does. And I think this is a very neat use of a neat way of doing that. Yeah, I quite like... I mean, the VFX sort of remind me of the ones that you get in RPG Maker games. And I would say they feel at peace with the... I think some of the particle effects that are on the characters don't feel great. I think all of the more bespoke effects, like that trail behind her, look fantastic, and the smoke and everything. Yeah, Brainoid, I think the horned characters are charging enemies thing is right. And I sort of... I think the other thing is going to be whether the... I'm too much dialogue for right now for something I'm playing for half an hour. Sorry, writers, but... if I'm playing a game for half an hour, I'm not going to read all of that. Okay... I don't care about any of these systems right now. I want to get a feel for the core game. Your dodge creates a frozen area where you started. I love a trail effect, or leaving something behind. I think there's definitely a bigger question about when you do something retro, what do you keep retro and what do you update? I think all the VFX work pretty well for me. The one that doesn't work is that chunky pixel glow on the floor. That one, where it's got the really big squares. It looks a bit too much like, I don't know, like a forced retro... Yeah, like you say, 8-bit. If it feels like what you would do with, like, a Pac-Man VR or something. Everything else looks fine. Everything else looks like sort of crunchy N64 type stuff. I keep forgetting to use... So she's got a stamina bar at her feet, and it kind of expands outwards. And I kept reading the ultimate bar as the stamina bar instead of the bar on the character. I don't know why, but I don't think that's any sort of problem with the game. It's just me not paying enough attention. What is that? What is that, and why did it kill me? Wishlist and receive 10 Aurum. Sometimes you just gotta bribe people with Aurum. I think that's fine. I think the sort of person that likes this game Oh, stop. Stop forcing me out of the app. That's bad. Right, if this forces me out of the app one more time, I'm just going to stop out of principle because I'm not interested in you pretending you're Genshin Impact in terms of your marketing practices. So if we get forced out of the app to go and wishlist something on a web browser one more time, I'm just turning it off on principle. You're not Square Enix, mate. Yeah, well, I never want a video game to take me to a web browser from the application. Basically, I want to, with something like this, I just want to know that I enjoy the core gameplay before I am expected to read more than maybe like 10 lines of dialogue. That's kind of probably my threshold. Unless the dialogue is really funny and charming, which maybe it is here. We had some good moments, but it was very like everything that I saw in the first maybe 10 lines of dialogue was very... I mean, it's kind of like kind of broken Portal Fantasy type thing. And I'm generally not here to play stories unless a game is just doing that. Like, I want to look at the gameplay. And a game has to do a lot to convince me that I like its core gameplay before I'm going to care about what the characters are saying. Can you just avoid getting hit forever? I think so, yeah, because it's really a matter of, you know, staying outside of those targeting circles. But that said, I don't think that is going to continue throughout the game because we might get some characters that are really fast. Just trying to work out what those glowing balls at the corner are that look like sort of evil pumpkins, and can I smash them? Because they look like something you should be able to smash. Damn, I must have lost all my Elemental Primer when I left the Divine Realm. I can still use Light Spell, but if I find some Primer, it'll give my magic some real power. Okay. I do like the combat system. It's... The way that some stuff is communicated is a little bit confusing, but it's also hard to tell if that's just a noob thing. Like, I've got that cooldown bar that tells me... it's just because I'm not close enough to attack. I was like, why does my cooldown bar on my character only seem to relate to my special? And it was because you have to get up close to the characters to be able to attack them. I keep forgetting to put the trigger on the attack as well. That's better. I really think if you have an attack and then press another button to do a special effect, it should just be pressing the attack button again. Because I think it's one of the shoulder buttons, and I'm not sure how changing which button you press to do the kind of second part of the attack really adds anything apart from needless complexity. This decoration on the ground is very eye-catching for something that doesn't do anything. Okay, we've got a trap there. We've got traps over here in the corner. Why are they right in the edge, though? Is that because you're just trying to teach me about traps and then later on they'll be in the middle or something? Why are the traps positioned where they're positioned? I think it might also be good if when your attack is ready, something on the character changes. I'm really struggling to read when I can do certain things. I guess it's because it's Q-based. I keep expecting it to not be Q-based and expect things to trigger when I press them, which is not how it works. I think part of it is because there's not like a visual cue, a cue that is visual. There's a cue that's conceptual, and like you do a move and it goes into the queue, and that the tutorial has told us that. But then there's nothing to remind you that has happened. So I would say, like, if I've queued an attack and my attack has been accepted into the queue, then we get an indicator of that. But we then don't get any visual indicator between the point where you queue your attack and the point where the attack triggers to let you know that attack is in the queue. So I think what I would like to see in that situation is after you queue an attack, you get a tell to let you know that your attack has gone into the queue. Because there is like a pop-up text, but if there was a sort of semi-permanent thing like your sword lights up or something, it'd be much easier to sort of remember what state the game is in. Because I'm just running towards them and then button mashing the attack until the attack happens, and I have no way of knowing which time kind of actually triggered the attack or whatever. So I think there is a little bit of information missing from that process. I mean, yeah, the kind of classic RPG versus roguelike thing. I think if you're talking about the kind of RPG where you go into dungeons and just grind by killing the same enemies in random encounters a lot of times, then I don't think it makes much difference. I think, you know, what you're missing in it, what's missing in a game like this that people would really miss would be like going to locations and navigating an environment and maybe doing puzzles in that environment or something. I think the general battle structure of just fight the same thing 30 times until you level up is still going to be roughly the same. And that really kind of brings me back to the general problem I have with jRPGs and Western games based on them, is that everything is a matter of grinding. And I'm not even saying that to be like, oh, get good, a game should be about skill. It's not that. It's just more like the time sink element of it. I find that a bit tedious, and I also sort of have a bit of an ethical qualm about making people play something for 100 hours that could easily take 10 hours, you know? I'm quite happy for games to be shorter and less grindy. So if a game is built around grinding, it kind of makes me think, well, you know, there's an audience for that I'm just totally not representative of. And yeah, I just often kind of wish that there was a quicker way to do it. This is okay though. I'm generally finding the combat okay. I keep forgetting that it is queue based, and part of that is because when a move goes into the queue, you're told it's accepted into the queue, but then there is not anything in the gap between that and the move triggering to kind of remind you. So I think, you know, that time I attacked and I attacked straight away, but if I go and I queue an attack, ability queued, right? In that gap between where it said ability queued and she attacks, I would like to see, you know, maybe she raises the sword above her head, maybe the sword lights up, but something to let me know that there is a different state, you know? Lots of programmers will be in the chat today. We all know how a finite state machine works in a game, and if you have a finite state machine in a game and those different states are gameplay relevant, like information the player should know about what's happening in the game, then they should look different in some way, you know? Like if falling is a different state to jumping, then your character should look different from when they're falling to when they're jumping, for example. And I think when we've got a move queued in this, that is an example of one of those states that needs to be communicated that's currently not. And I don't know, you might disagree, but I think if you've had any playtesters that are confused by this combat system, then that would be one of the areas that I would maybe look at fixing. There's no visual representation for the queue as far as I can tell, no. Stop trying to make me join your Discord. It's like on the... It's like on the first thing that we come onto on here. Right. Spirit magic. Augments. Why is this all grayed out? I thought I was playing the full game, not the demo. Constellation. I want some stamina regen. I have some extra stamina regen. This skill tree feels pretty good. We want healing and regen. Okay. There's nothing, so we've got these different areas of the constellation, but there's nothing sort of thematically about this area to let me know that this is the stamina area and this is the healing area, you know? Like, make that a heart in the middle. Make that something stamina related. Because, you're sort of losing the benefit of using constellations as a metaphor if you don't make them look like things. You know? It's a cool skill tree. Feels good to unlock stuff. But basically what you've done from a UI design perspective is every single one of these things... Okay, I can see it says Spectral Throne there. Elemental Mantra there. But they don't look different. And that means that there's no visual clue to let you know what that area is for. And that means that you have to go and hover over every single part to know what any of it does. Which is like, well, you know... Why use constellations as a metaphor if you're not going to use the thing that's good about constellations, which is that they are different from each other and they look like things? Let's depart. Right, 5 more minutes of this one and then we're going to check out the Pokemon looking one. What is this one called? Something Breaker? Eclipse Breaker. Icebound Step. I always want the thing that leaves a little thing on the ground after you dash. That's just that kind of guy. The other thing is that your special and your attack both use up your stamina, which means that you can't chain them. Like, you can't dash in, use your special to dash in and then attack, because they both use the same resource. So it's kind of back down to the problem I have with most of these turn-based games, where it's just like you either have loads of turns where the obvious move is obvious because it's just like the best thing you should do, so you just do it over and over again. Or you have things that appear different and you choose between them, but they don't really do something different. I'm still forgetting to trigger miss, so I think the tell for when you can do the trigger could be a bit clearer as well. Silga's icebound obey. Tip: not all attacks can be parried. Oh, I've been completely forgetting to block. I mean, that's my experience of every action RPG ever made, so... See, look, I do magic, and then... Magic should have used some sort... Magic's got its own cooldown, but now I can't do an attack because my magic used up my stamina. Like it's kind of like the D&D action economy, where an action is the most valuable thing in the whole thing. But I can never do like a 1-2 punch of 2 moves because they all basically use up the same unit of time as the main thing they use. It's not really a queue, it's just waiting for the... It's not, I don't think it is actually a queue. I don't think you can add anything to the queue after the current move. So basically, when you trigger something, it says you don't have enough stamina yet. Then if you've got enough stamina, then the move triggers, or goes into a queue and triggers after the enemies have moved. But you can't trigger something and then trigger something else to happen after it. You're only ever triggering the next thing. So even the concept of a queue doesn't seem to be there. It's a little bit confusing to call it a queue. Because when you talk about a queue in terms of game mechanics, we think of several actions that can go into a queue. And it might have a limit. It might be 3 actions long, but I don't think of a queue being one thing that is being delayed while we wait for the enemies to... And so some of that might not be that the mechanic needs to change. Some of it might just be that it's not being communicated very well. Because, well, it's not being communicated at all, really. It's being implied by the use of the word queue, but it's not there as a visible thing as you're doing it. But yeah, all of the attacks don't seem to have different costs or cooldowns, so that they're basically just, do you want to do the ranged attack that does less damage, or the close-up attack that does more damage but puts you in harm's way more? It feels like there's not going to be lots of depth in the actual combat itself, and it's all going to come from adding stuff to your attacks. And for something where so much time has been spent on this portion of the game, that feels a bit off to me. Yeah, the queue is the attacks of the enemy and the player, but even then, it's just like, have an indicator for that, and then we'll understand it, you know? Yeah. So when the enemies are attacking, and we press attack, our attack goes to the back of the queue. And that's what the queue is. But I don't think that's... lots of people will make the assumption when you say your attack is going into a queue that there is a queue of your moves. The way to resolve it is to put indicators for it on that, because there's no indicators for it. I quite like this. I like certain aspects of it. I really like the narrative direction. I like the creative direction of it. I know I just said I like the narrative and I skipped a bunch of it, but that was because it was just front-loaded too much for a quick run-through like this. The combat, I just need a few more tells and indicators on how certain things work, and maybe I didn't give a very good account of what those were there. But if you are finding, if the developer's watching this and you're finding people are playing this and not understanding certain things, I think there are a few places where there could be in-world tells, like when we have an attack queued, do something to show that on the character, make their sword light up, make them hold their sword above their head, something like that. And then the concept of attacks being queued and enemies' attacks being in the queue is just not super clear on here. And the other thing that would put me off playing this for a long period of time is that there doesn't really seem to be much difference between the different moves I can do. And I'm not talking about how they look, I'm talking about, like, in terms of decision making. I've got a spell that I can cast from a distance, and I've got a special move that I can cast from a distance and moves me in. There doesn't seem to be much to think about in terms of why I would use one over the other. They don't seem to have independent cooldowns or anything like that, which... all of that feels a bit confusing to me, and I'm sure there is a rationale behind it, but I didn't feel any of that as I was playing it. Yeah, unfortunately, Unreal Engine games just are never optimized to work with people's webcams. It just seems to be a thing with streaming and Unreal games across the board. See, back to normal now. I have some FPS. As to my question that I posed in the title of this stream, can they make me like jRPG combat? I don't think that one did it. I also didn't like being pushed to sign up to a mailing list or whatever various points during the demo. I think that can come across as quite skeezy, and you need to have that in there, but I think yeah, just maybe it's working for you, and if the data will speak for itself if lots of people are joining the mailing list, but it comes across as a little bit skeezy to me. It makes you feel like a kind of big corporate company rather than an indie game developer. I think if people play your game and they like it, they will wishlist it. You might want to give them a prompt as a reminder to do that, but pushing people out of the app to go and do stuff you want them to do just feels, I don't know, just doesn't feel very disco to me. We're going to check out Astral Arena next, which I've got the build of from Itch. I mean, I think when something is based on sort of Ocean Star and stuff like that, it still constitutes a jRPG. But I also think that term is really too broad for a lot of things, you know. There are people that would call Nintendo lawsuit bait game, yeah. Parasite Eve, yeah. This is not the game I was trying to open. Hang on, let's leave that one for now and check out Astral Arena. Yeah, this is not Pokemon. No, the other one is a kind of a game that uses cards for the turn-based combat. So we've got another Unreal game. Has Unreal Engine got some really good like turn-based game templates or something? Because currently in development. The game is still a work in progress. You may encounter bugs, glitches, and other issues during your experience. The final product may differ from this demo. Final product shouldn't differ too much from the demo. Bite Me did a video about this like last week of people not understanding the meaning of different terms in the games industry and what demo means. And you know, if you go back to, I mean, even in the early 2000s, you would get a demo of a game and it was like the game was finished and the demo was a slice of the game. And now people kind of release a testing prototype and say it's a demo. Like, I know that that's what gamers will think it means, but we need to push back on gamers not knowing what words mean. Have the other game still open? I do, but if it's not making any noise, I don't really care too much. There we go. Welcome to the Astral Arena, where challengers command mighty astrals. Climb the ranks. This has got a, not killing my frame rate as much, but we're not... Why is he still blah-blahing on a loop? Right, I understand the kind of Animal Crossing Animalese dialogue thing of having characters go doodle-doo, but it literally sounds like he's saying blah blah blah, which is a good way to make people not care about what he's saying. Why is the music this dramatic when we're just being introduced to the game and it's a menu? Now then, let's get you set up with your first astral core. Astral cores are used to create astrals. You start with just one, but in time you... I'm gonna... Why is he looping that blah 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 noise? Okay, I managed to skip that. I'm not going to know what's happening, but that tutorial, like, why are you trying to get me to read? Like, think of the kind of activity that reading is, and then you're playing, like, Hollywood action movie music in the background, and the character is going, blah, 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 blah. The way that that sound effect is supposed to work when you have text is the text types out, and the character goes blah, 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 until the text is finished. It's a replacement for a typewriter noise that's meant to add a bit of character. If you add a loop of a guy going blah 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 while a character is talking, that makes me think that you don't respect your own characters and think that they've got something interesting to say. So don't do that. Interact. Healy thing. Information will be displayed once unlocked. Blah, 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 blah. Excellent. Yeah, it's not cool, especially like, I mean, it's irritating, and then you've also done it on a brown-skinned character, which makes it feel racist. I don't know how to, can I turn it off if I turn the sound effects off? Is it part of the UI? It's awful. Really bad. Like, that's an intolerable thing to make me listen to when I'm supposed to be learning how to play your game. Ridiculous. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Maybe I'm just tired, but that is almost like it's deliberately annoying. This UI is stretched all the way to the edge of the screen. Everything is as taking up as much space as it possibly can, and it's stretched totally to the edge of the screen. I could turn my overlay off so you could see at the top. The top left says Astral Cores. I'm not going to bother because this sort of looks like a very stylized Roblox game at the moment. Everything is this very flat UI. Feels a bit Roblox. Feels like kind of what Nintendo do for their more hardcore games recently as well. But yeah, let me read your tutorial text without playing a loop of someone saying blah 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 blah. Awful. I don't have any globs. I don't have any astral cores. So you've introduced me to a feature that uses resources without giving me the resources to use it, which is a kind of a big why, you know. I need to make a macro. I need to make an OBS macro of the, you know, the like white cat thing where it's going like that, or the one. I love people trying to describe memes. The one where it's like a kid that's dressed up like in a weird medieval costume, like an old painting, and it says "Why though?" I need to make just a macro that just brings that up automatically. Okay, so I can use Astral Mutation, but it gives me access to this and explains what it is, but I can't use it straight away, which is kind of a bit pointless. Like, you either give me the stuff to use the thing straight off, or just don't show it to me yet. Can't go in there. There's an invisible wall. Here's what's effective against other things. And the thing about these kind of systems, you know, rock, paper, scissors type systems in general, is it all comes down to where do I get to make decisions based on this? Because if it's like, oh, you're fighting 3 ice guys, then you choose your heat guy. If you don't get that information, then you've got no way to make a decision about what to use, and it just becomes like rolling a dice. So if I choose my heat guy, I don't know whether what I'm using is going to be effective against them. So when I see systems like this, I'm always like, how does this play into the rest of the game? Because you either don't have enough information, in which case it's just random whether you get something you're effective against, which is still rock, paper, scissors, right? It's just like you randomly draw a thing and is it effective against the other. If you do get the information, then maybe you get too much information and it's just a case of, well, if I pick the right thing against your thing, then I'm going to win, rather than, you know, and that comes down to the balancing of like how much of an advantage do you get from these kind of effectiveness things. Make an astral. I mean, you told me to make an astral, and then you told me I didn't have what I need. Each core has one primary type. Compatible types you combine with the core to create an astral. Below the cores, you'll see the selected core's unique stats. When an astral is created, the core stats are added to its base stats. So even a weak astral can hit hard with a... Right? I don't have any astral cores. Okay, I'm gonna restart it just to give it one more chance, because maybe I missed something, because I was skipping so much of the horrible noise that guy was making. Okay, choose your first core. So what happened is I quit out of this because of the looping noise. It didn't give me my first core, and then when I loaded back, the save point was after this point. Okay? Just sort of not great engineering. Okay, so now I can do it because I've got a magic core. So, Dev, if you're watching this back, if someone quits during the first dialogue, they don't get the magic core, and then the game loads after the point where they should get the magic core. So, love doing people's QA for them. If you have a set of if you have a sequence of things in your game where players will get locked if something doesn't happen and it's relatively linear, you need to QA that and check what happens if they get kicked out of the game at various different points. This is not a good time to get your QA done. Man, I cannot read anything that guy is saying because of that noise. It's awful. Yeah, okay, mate, come on. Just stop. Okay, it's letting me choose between light and shadow. Yeah, okay. I've got a magic core, and whatever glob I put with it is gonna make the base of my Pokemon, who's called Bollock, apparently. And you can separate them back. It's a terrible voice. I need to be able to turn it off. If it goes on much longer, it's just like, it's impossible to read with that sound. It's impossible to read with that sound playing. And then, like I said, because you've done that on a brown skin character, and that makes it comes across worse as well. So it's kind of like, feels like someone taking the mick out of how someone else speaks. Yeah, I think when you're trying to read and it's doing it, it's like the adults in Charlie Brown when they go wah, 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 wah. The thing is, when we normally do that on dialogue, it plays for a little bit while the text appears and then it stops. It doesn't continuously loop, and that's what I'm struggling with. Everything has stupid made-up runic names. Reward type glob. Okay, this is what I'm fighting against. These are the creatures. Right, why don't I have a picture of them? These are my opponents. Is that the name of the trainer or the name of the creature? Oh my god. Okay, I can move my character around. Alright, Jokester. Okay, the face buttons trigger the abilities, and then the character engages. And you can tell them to engage or disengage by pushing forward or backwards, but the other movement is part of just, they kind of do it themselves. Yeah, I don't have any problem with sound effects when characters are talking, but they need to not go on forever. Like, constantly. When it happens in Animal Crossing or Phoenix Wright, it is like the sound of the text typing out. Okay, that's a training room. Got it. That's why I couldn't go in there before. So that lets you try your moves out on the dolls. Yeah, the music is way too dramatic for what's going on, especially when I'm fighting dummies. Okay, I've done a combat. I don't have anything from that combat. I think I got a new move for Rollock, but I don't think I get a Rollock. It's a rolling rock, Rollock. I mean, I read that as Rollock because that's how words work. Pick a challenger. I'll have to talk to him again. Do I have to? Manochia. Sure. Art looks great. It's sort of like... It sort of looks like what Pokemon battles would look like if they were happening in the Avatar universe. I don't care about synergy levels. Actively engaging. I need to move myself over so you can see the silliest part of the screen right now. There seems to be a mix of I can push them to go towards the enemy and then they have their own AI. So disengaging, engaging. Nice. So the moves are the things down on the bottom right, and they are all really just represented by an icon for what element they do. Earth is effective against water. Magic is effective against fungus. I don't know if you knew that, but magic is effective against fungus. I don't think there is a strategy around it. I think that's the problem. It's like there is a type of game that used to exist that was designed for children, and there are adults that like those types of games or remember liking them, and they just sort of replicate them. And this is the exact problem I have with every game based on Pokemon. There's nothing wrong with the theme of collecting monsters and battling against each other that should lead to this type of gameplay, but because people are trying to replicate Pokemon, they just go, oh well, you just choose what move to do, and it's not interesting. I'm just gonna push some buttons. There's Pokemon with an active time battle. So the Q at the bottom, every time I press one of the face buttons to trigger one of the moves on the right, it goes into the queue. But I don't know how you would be supposed to know how that works, Rondell, because it's not being communicated. So I will get back into combat as quickly as we can so we can have some sort of productive use of this game, because I don't... There's so much in this game that I see that just tells me that... I don't know, sometimes certain aspects of a game are so bad that I look at them and I think the developer probably isn't going to put in the work to fix all of this, right? So let's go into combat, and what I'm going to do now, I've got 3 moves on the bottom right. I'm going to press the button to trigger each of them, and that timeline along the bottom is going to take those skills in, right? What's different about them? They have a number on that tells me what move they are. They're all the same colour. Like, why is the pink magic move not a pink block on the timeline? Why does the colour of the move not transfer over to the timeline? Why is there no name for the move? You know, there's a weird set of things, and so much of it feels driven by laziness. Because if you go, oh, we've got a bite move, and it's a pair of teeth on a little icon, you have the pair of teeth on the move, and then when you put it on the timeline, there's a pair of teeth. There are loads of little UX UI decisions here that feel like they're driven by laziness and not understanding that the player needs to understand what's going on. And I just about understand what's going on. Someone watching the game as an observer is not going to have a clue, because you've made a game that's entirely played through the interface, and the interface isn't doing its basic job of communicating what's going on. Like, when I press a button and I trigger one of those 3 moves in the corner of the screen, that move should light up. That move should do something to indicate that the button that triggers it has just pressed, right? What I've seen this lots and lots of times when people make this kind of game where there's like, with one of the deck builders we played the other week, it was like this. The characters are in the world are doing what they should be doing. The kind of fictional cartoon universe of the game is doing what it should be doing, but the basic stuff of how the UI works is just not... There's just basic stuff. When I press a button and it does something that corresponds to something on the screen, that thing on the screen should react and show me that I've pressed that button, both for the benefit of the player and for anyone else watching. Because I know what's happening, because I press a button and the move I did at the bottom right moves onto that timeline, but how would anyone else know? And how would and it also means it's just not satisfying to do. If every button press causes some sort of effect in the user interface that shows what's happening, that is both good communication for the player and anyone watching the game, and it's also just kind of satisfying. It makes pressing those buttons satisfying. The problem is, in a game like this, we've got indirect control over a character. We're just rolling them around and then queuing their moves. So if my entire interaction as a player is with the interface, then the interface should feel squidgy and fun to play with, and it doesn't here. It's just, I press a button, like, the moves at them, nothing happens to those moves at the bottom of the screen to indicate that that's what I've triggered. You've just put some instructions there of which button does which one. There's no light up, no animation or anything like that. And it just feels like, you get games like this when someone has spent a lot of time trying to learn how to use a game engine and they've just forgotten to look at video games and what they do. Like the type of stuff I'm talking about here, this isn't some deep secret knowledge that you can only get from a course or a special textbook. It is literally just look at a game. What does it do when you press buttons? Okay, that's what your game should do. So I don't really feel like playing much more of this because I think it's in such a shabby state, and you know, the voiceover thing was so irritating. Like, I could not read the text while that was going on. And then the core gameplay is like a game that you play entirely through the interface, and the interface doesn't respond in any way. So I'm gonna close that one down because I think the next game is going to be a bit more enjoyable. And I don't like it when the feedback I can give to people is like, play games and pay attention, because that's not very interesting. But for some of you, that is the problem. It is that you have not paid attention when you play games. You take what's going on for granted, and you know, perhaps you notice it, perhaps you realize that your game should have more feedback, but you're just being lazy about it, and you think, oh, people won't mind. They will mind. It's like, this is basic due diligence stuff. I can't even get to a point in that game where I can sort of think about the strategic element or the upgrading or anything like that, because the basic activity of what happens when I push a button is just not fundamentally like pleasing to do. And you're asking someone to do this over and over again for hours and hours and hours, and it is just a basic level of respect for your player to make sure that the inputs they put into your game respond in an interesting and satisfying way. And if this was a grey box prototype, I would understand. And this is probably why I'm going so hard on it. If this was a grey box prototype where they're just saying, we want to test our battle system, here is it, it's kind of a prototype, it's ugly and everything like that, but the world looks so beautiful, the interface looks all right, the characters look lovely, and when a game is in that state, but it's also in this other state I'm talking about, where there is nothing in the game to communicate what is happening when I press a button or to reward me for doing particular things, and the game is played entirely through the interface, but no care or attention has been put into making that interface feel responsive, then I just think this is dead in the water. And it's not that you couldn't fix it. It's not like it's that showing a game to people when it's in this state indicates that you fundamentally do not care about those things, and it shows a lack of respect for your players. So I'm going to move on from that one and not give it any more time, because I kind of don't know why that one in particular makes me feel so angry, but it really does. It's that kind of over polish to make people want to engage with it because you've got nice characters and all of this art looks lovely, and they're not giving players the basic respect of communicating what is happening in the game or making it feel good. And yeah. Okay, Dark Cards of Candlewood. This is not really a JRPG, so I will say that up front. And, you know, the title of this stream was really a reference to the fact that every time someone sends me a game with turn-based battling in, I think, this is a game for children. The description of this game is talking about two-choice card combat, where you've got cards that can do two separate things. So if you've played Gloomwood, whether the board game or the adaptation of it, I think we're getting some mechanics from Gloomwood here, but we're still kind of doing the party-based combat in a JRPG style story type environment. So interested to see what this is, and maybe it's not totally within the theme of the stream, but I think, you know, when you make turn-based combat games, the thing about combat in a JRPG is, unless it's a Final Fantasy Tactics game, you don't have space, right? You're not moving characters around. You are just choosing what they do on their turn. And that makes the decision space of what you are deciding to do tactically quite narrow, potentially quite shallow. And there are lots of ways of resolving that. You can have like a single line formation thing, like you have in Darkest Dungeon, where moves do different things depending on where you are. That's a way to add depth to that type of system. You can have like modal stuff, like lots of status effects and things like that to add depth. But I think fundamentally, when a game is following the old Pokemon format of it's your turn, which of these three things does your character do, it is really not enough for most adult gamers, most indie gamers who play like dozens of different games a year to get their teeth into at a sort of intellectual level. And a lot of these games, it's like someone has taken their nostalgia for Pokemon and just kind of copied the game directly, or Final Fantasy VII or something like that, copied the game directly. It's like one of the problem with RPG Maker games. Like, I really like RPG Maker as a tool. I've used it loads over the years, but the kind of combat system in it is just replicating that thing that is just fundamentally not that interesting for me to do. And this is going to show us some different approaches to that. And that's fundamentally what is happening in deck builder roguelikes, is that as you pilot your cards, it is still a choice of you can probably pick between three main things you can do each turn, but because that is randomized by the deck, you get a little bit more kind of stuff to respond to and think about and react to. We'll see how it plays out here, but I feel a bit more promising about this one generally. Hello, welcome to the demo. Heads up that there's no sound, And lots of missing art, so still bear with me. Okay. Choose new game to wipe your save and start over, or continue to load your last autosave. Now, I'm glad that they told me about the no sound. I couldn't get this far into a game with no sound. I see that art and I want it to have sound, but I also think it's a good choice to tell people and just be upfront about that, because you know, if their intention is to go through and put all of the sound in to a decent quality at the same time, then that kind of makes sense and probably will save a lot of work. I personally couldn't work that way. I want something in there as quickly as possible, even if it's just like a terrible 8-bit SFX sound to give the flavor of what should be happening at that moment in the gameplay. New game. Advertising your book has 1,000 pages. Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine if the blurb on the back of a book was like, over 1,000 pages full of words and punctuation? That is what it feels like when you advertise how much stuff is in a game. There will be another dedicated deck builder stream as soon as I've got 3 or 4 deck builders in the queue. I will. You know what I'll do? I'm just gonna dip into my music library of stuff that I made, because then I won't get hit by. Then I won't get hit by. Then I won't get hit by any copyright strikes. We're gonna put my random looping. I made my own lo-fi because I got sick of getting hit by copyright strikes when something said it was safe and it wasn't. Okay. In the west, by the sea, something terrible that should have been forgotten is once again discovered. Good UX, little bit of text on each line. Is that a village up ahead? Art here is lovely. Bet they've got a tavern. Okay. I'm seeing cutesy Darkest Dungeon Hamlet so far. We're gonna go in the tavern. You there! Why are you skulking about our town hall? Town hall? I think I may be lost, actually. When did you submit the game, Brainoid? Sometimes I have... I mean, the stream from a week ago would have been queued up like 6 weeks ago, because I do my scheduling like a month ahead now, so... These roads are quite dangerous now with so little daylight. That's my old moustache man voice. Allow me to welcome you to Candlewood. Okay. Thanks, call me Fur. I'm Albert, the mayor. Godstow, you look like you've been through hell. Well, I was just shipwrecked. Absolutely dreadful. I mean, if I add a download link somewhere, then it will become part of... The problem is, if I put my music anywhere, then it goes into the algorithms that check if the music exists anywhere, and then I get copyright struck. I've had my own music on Spotify before, and then I use it somewhere, and then I get told you don't own this music because the platforms don't know who you are. You're just an account. And they're all automated, so when you send them messages saying, don't you know who I am, I'm kind of a big deal, then they don't listen to you because it's not a thing that anyone reads the email for. What happened? My Captain Ruby and I were sailing east when our ship was attacked by viscous pirates. I'm reading it wrong on purpose, but okay. My timer was almost up. That's when I drew my battle axe. This is very charming. When your timer hits 0, you draw a hand of 2 cards. Okay. Okay, so we have active time battle timers. When the timer is up, we get 2 cards. Is it from my deck or from the character's deck? And then we just choose one. I'm going to damage 2 enemies. After you play a card, it goes into your discards. If your deck is empty at turn end, your discards are shoveled back. It's explaining all the basics, but it's doing it in a very quick way. So it's Ruby's turn. It's saying I've never seen that before. Am I just playing as him and not her? Is that why she didn't get a choice? You discard a card to gain an extra. Choose a card. I just want the one that hurts everyone. You discarded a card. Yeah, to get more energy for later. It's a pretty advanced play, actually. Okay. Look at these buccaneers. They're like kobolds or goblins or something. So when she draws a card, I don't get a choice, but I don't know if that's just a tutorial thing. A fireball card, you say? Yeah, Ruby, she's incredible. Ah, so it's like that, eh? No, wait. I mean, wow, we've got subtext. This is good games writing, right? We have like UI-driven games writing in the sense that there is one line of text on the screen. There is not more than there needs to be. And then we've got a character that is able to communicate something subtextual, where they're not just going, yeah, fancy her. Yeah, that Ruby, or for... I just think she's pretty good with fire magic is all. Fire magic, curious. Anyways, one of the pirates was looking pretty bad, so I grabbed my throwing dagger. Didn't you say you grabbed a throwing dagger? Oh yeah, but I had to use a redraw first to find one. The redraw button lets you get a different hand. You have unlimited redraws, but each one costs an energy. Okay. Lowest health enemy with 3 damage. These have got 3 health, so that's going to take out one of them. One very, very small UI thing. I think the text on the health bars and stuff should be in white, because having this kind of themed color where it's pink here and blue here is making it pop out less. And that's the most important text that I need to read at any given time. And like, if you think of like the white outline around these characters, that is pushing them higher up the information hierarchy than this number, and this number is probably more important than this outline. So I would think about that. The art and the UI design is absolutely gorgeous though, and the tutorial is very, very well structured. I think also sometimes, okay, never seen before, it's showing me a new card I haven't seen before. I think one of the things you could do here as well is when this is important, like this card I'm not playing in the context of the battle, I'm just seeing it for the first time. So I would say in this context, when you're doing the never seen before, put a vignette behind the whole thing apart from this menu and this, and it kind of helps to show you that this is not a card we're playing in the combat. We're just showing you this to tell you that we've never seen it before. Yeah, so put like maybe like a starburst behind it to go, ta-da, never seen this card before, so that we understand that this is separate from the playing of the cards, you know. Choose a card. No, I'm going to re-roll because I need to deal 6 damage, and these only do 5, so maybe I've got something that does more. But I haven't, so I'll shield instead. Dev for this game, if you want me to do some sound, I can't promise it will be any good, but I'll have a go. Like, if you wanted me to just stream for a day trying to knock out all the sound effects for this game, I would happily do that pro bono to make a stream out of it, because this is great. The approach I would take, because it is pixel art, is I would make SFXer synth-based bit crush noises first, and then I would layer them with the actual sounds. So when someone gets hurt, you would get like a synth sound, and then have a real sound over it. That is the approach I would take for like a modern pixel art game like this. But that is a legitimate offer. Like, you can hear, I can do music. I know how to operate audio software. So if you want someone to experimentally have a go at your sound effects as part of their content creation, then I would definitely do that. Is there something in the water? We need to abandon ship. Now. We'll be wait. This captain of yours... Red hair and fire magic, was it? Brainoid's like, take this offer. I believe she passed through here recently. Did you catch where she was headed? Alas, I'm afraid I can't let you go after her. Your friend burnt our tavern to the ground and then fled town. Oh no. Somebody needs to take responsibility. So what, you're just going to throw me in jail? Not precisely. I'd like you to work off the debt at the Adventurers Guild here in town. If you help to rebuild our tavern, I'll help you to find you. Where's the tavern? Is the tavern completely burnt down so that we can't see it? I lost all my cards in the wreck. Why, here comes our new card merchant right now. Bro, 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 bro. Bro, 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 bro. I don't think... We had this discussion in the Discord the other day about voiceovers in games. I think the Animalese thing is fine in a pixel art game, but it needs to go along with the typing out. But I don't think you should have voiceover in most indie games, because... Okay, the situations where a voiceover is called for are experiences that are very based on, like, guttural emotions where hearing someone's voice might be better. Like horror, for example. Horror is a genre where hearing someone's voice may be better. Most games where you've got like characters and a story, I think players want to project into them, and the more space you give players to do that, the better, which is kind of coming back to my Final Fantasy comment from earlier. It doesn't even matter if the voiceover is really good. By putting the voiceover in, you sort of create a situation where it just might not be to someone's taste, or that voice might not sound how that person thinks that character sounds. So even if you make it of a really high quality, you're adding something to the game that is going to limit its appeal. And I just think most people would rather read and imagine what the character sounds like. So Mira, for example, here, like, you can read that and you'd be like, oh, that's Mira, she sounds like this. Maya, I can read it and be like, she's like, Maya, or whatever, you know, leave it up to the player. Who's this? The point is, if it's going as it types out and then stops, then I can read it without the sound playing. But if it's looping constantly like that, like it was in that last game, it's just an awful experience. Mira, sell me some cards. I need my adventuring cards. I have some gold set aside for just an account. Why is Albrecht grey? Why are you grey? You're giving me money. I'm also giving you these. Throwing dagger cards. I'll let our guildmaster know to expect you. Farewell. So... if you just follow me to the card shop now... It just sounds like pseudo Matt Berry, like most of my voices when I'm not really thinking about it. Here we are. So you're some kind of sailor. Yep, I'm searching for the rest of my crew. Right, well, with the gold you have now... I can't actually afford anything. Here, I've got a couple of starter packs I can discount for you. Draft 3 classless cards that require 1 square. I don't have any squares either. I'm going to go for the rapier because it's piratey. And I want the piratey stuff. I want all the piratey stuff. Okay, so when we open a pack, we're doing a draft. Right, 3 choices, keep 1, throw 1 away. That's really neat. That is so much better than just going, well, in real life, opening a pack of cards is getting 3 or 6 or whatever, and you just get what you get. Use the strengths of the medium, use the fact it's a video game, and give me a choice. I will go for a spear for that one. Okay, and this one. First aid. Seem to be quite a few healing mechanics in this. Been thinking a lot about whether that works in deck builders. It's like if you can heal during the combat, you could maybe end up slowing the game down quite a bit. Who are you? Are these townsfolk grey because they're the townsfolk? Sorry, Fritz, I was in your way. It's like looking in a mirror, isn't it? Hang on. It's just me. I'm in this game. What's going on? What is happening? Why am I in this? Why am I in this computer game? Who are ye? I'm Fritz. Just need a little scar here as well, like just a... Who are ye? Why are they black and white though? Is it just because they're side characters, or is this a ghost town? The mayor sent me. I'm supposed to work for you or something. You're barely level 1. Sure, but I've got a throwing dagger. Well, I suppose I'll have to do. It's kind of giving Monkey Island vibes, tonally. It's not even the same art style, but there's something about this sort of breaking the fourth wall a lot. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink writing, while the writing is also still trying to do a story and have characters and emotion and stuff. And it's really, really well written. But I just got here. Just bring whatever cards you have and meet me at the stables. Okay, that's good. Marty, how are ye? Hey, Master Fritz. I'd like ye to meet our newest guildsman. What was your name again? Nice to meet you. What can I help with today? Hard to believe, but we're going out on an adventure. Where to? Whoa, nice map. Did you make this? Yup, pretty good for a kid. I'm 37. Fair, he's a halfling. Oh, well, I'm extremely sorry. Don't worry about it. Alright then, let's get started. I didn't even know this was a sort of Tolkien-esque world with halflings and such in it. I've marked the location here, have a look. Monsters have been sighted outside the forest as the light of our world wanes. I hate it when the light of my world wanes. But I do like Wayne's World. I don't know if I like Wayne's World. I haven't watched it since I was a teenager. So what's the game plan? Don't look at me, you're the adventurer. So maybe I don't actually get a party. Maybe it's just 1v1. We'll see. Okay. Get 2 mushrooms. Did you catch all that just now? Huh? I wasn't paying attention. Dude, seriously. Yeah, fine. You can see what's being played if you go over the action log. Ah, smart. I think it's just, I mean, not putting the sound effect in yet. Maybe they're waiting for a particular person or something, but, The tutorialization is fantastic. See, what we just had there is we were presented with a problem, and then the tutorial presented us with the solution, rather than just telling us there's a thing. Oh, there's a log over there. No, they showed us everything moving too fast, and then the character went, "What's going on?" And then they told us about that log up in the top left. I think my brainoid said if any of my opinions about JRPG combat changed after playing today's game. I think it's what I said a moment ago. You need there to be depth somewhere, and just choosing attack or defend or spell is not really depth in a lot of places. The thing with this kind of system is that the randomness is something that you're constantly building outside of the combat, which is very different from in the Final Fantasy thing, where it's like, oh, if I finish 10 of these 10-minute long battles, then I can get a different weapon that gives me a different ability. It's just too slow to modify the strategy element of the game. I do think from the first game that we played, the Eclipse Breaker game, I missed out on this big chunk of games where they started switching to ATB. So I missed out on all of the real-time Final Fantasies, mainly because I didn't want to hear the voice acting. And I think there's like a gap there in stuff I would probably maybe still enjoy if I played it. And, you know, it's just something to do with turn-based battles where the turn-based combat is there to create a situation where the game is all about grinding and building up numbers so that when you get to the turn-based battle, you can win. And that means that the decisions in the battle don't really matter because it's all about how much. That's the fundamental thing I don't like. And that is not just a quality of JRPGs, but it is more common in JRPGs. And I think when you have a game like that where it's just about numbers going up, I would rather just play Cookie Clicker if I'm going to play something where it's kind of that. Yeah, this is not a JRPG at all. But I do think think about why people enjoy playing a turn-based combat when you get to play cards on your turn versus a turn-based combat where you just pick attack, defend, spell. The reason is that level of complexity was originally designed for games that were aimed at children and not games that were aimed at adults who've been playing complex video games for 20 or 30 years. And that's kind of, you know, talked about this with Chris the other day when I did the Chris Zukowski interview. It's like people make things that are just not sophisticated enough games for adults to play because they are copying something that was designed for children. And then they're like, why has my game not succeeded? And it's like, well, you tried to design something that you hoped adults would spend money on, and you made the video game equivalent of Dora the Explorer. Yeah. I haven't played any Personas. I played which Shin Megami Tensei was it? Nocturne's something, the PS2 one. Loved that game. And that's still the kind of Pokemon thing. It's probably the last one of those games that I really loved. And then, like you say, these games have a lot more going for them. They have the story, the world. And like my experience of playing Final Fantasy 6 through 9 was the combat was something I tolerated because I liked the world and the characters and exploring. So if you have something like that Pokemon game we just played where all of that is gone, then it's like, I mean, this is a problem I've always had with Pokemon. It's like in JRPGs, particularly the 90s ones, I endured the combat in order to access the story and the exploration and the character stuff. And if all of that's gone, which it is in Pokemon games, then it's like you're just keeping in the worst part of the game, you know? Again, like all of this stuff comes down to taste, and people will like different stuff. And the name of this stream is partly a joke because people who watch the channel will know I don't like that type of game. And one of the things people should do when they're sending games to content creators, whether they're a general content creator who's just entertainment, or whether even in my case where it's like an educational channel or somewhat educational, you should still think about whether or not they're going to like it. Because it would, I don't think it's reasonable to expect, even someone that talks about design, teaches about design, it's not reasonable to expect anyone to like all games and to have something positive to say about all types of games, because like I say, I feel like those mechanics are designed to waste people's time and are designed to make a game last for 200 hours when it should be over in 10 or 20. Okay, we're getting one-shot items. I think my looping music is... I need to make a longer loop of royalty-free lo-fi, apparently. You can pay an item anytime instead of picking a card for... And yeah, you totally can have a turn-based combat game that is not about grinding. But I think if you think of like how those games originally came back, that was probably the business rationale for making those games structured in the way that they were. Is, oh, it will take so long for people to collect all of these things because there'll be so much RNG and you'll have to level them up and all of that. And I just don't think that is a good... For me, it's like I have a taste response to it, and I have a taste response that is informed by an ethical position on a thing, which is that I think games are about giving people access to a variety of experiences, not about giving... Like, I don't like the idea of forever games. You know, I have games that I play lots and lots of. I don't like... I've never really played MMOs for that reason. Like, I don't like the idea of a game being a service that really wants me to kind of lock into it like it's a religion and take over my life for 10 years. I think there's something that I find fundamentally icky about that, and other people can feel differently about that. But you know, when I articulate these things, it's not because I want you to change your position on it, or for you to have a different view on, or for your view on it to change if you like those sort of games. What I'm trying to do is show you how I articulate that position so that you can articulate your positions as well. Because one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with when it comes to game design is, this is one of the reasons why I'm always moaning about trend chasing, is your job as a designer is to have a position on things and then articulate that through your design. So a good game design is nearly always the result of someone who has gone like, I like these things in games, I don't like these things in games. I'm going to make a game and it's going to be one of these, but it's not going to do this because I don't like it when games do like that. And the reason I don't like it is that it leads to this. That is the kind of thinking that you need to do in order to be a good game designer. It is about having taste. It's about having a position on things. And then if you are a solo developer where you're having to design and implement, then it is about like creating something, like, you know, physically making the thing that expresses those positions that you have. And when I talk about my positions on things as a designer, I'm not trying to make universal statements about what is good or bad game design. I'm trying to show you how someone who is a seasoned game designer articulates their positions, because the more you're able to talk about these things, the more you're able to like actively think about them and then express them in your games and come up with games that are good. Because your game doesn't need to appeal to everyone. Your game, like, again, going back to the talk with Chris C the other day, games can make millions of dollars by selling to 1% of the total people on Steam, right? A good game is not something that appeals to everyone. A good game is something that appeals to a specific group of people very strongly. And you do that by making a game that has, and I'm going to say has something to say. And I don't mean that in a preachy way. I don't mean that your game needs to be about important things. I mean, it needs to have a position on what good game design is, and not just be a bunch of stuff thrown in because you think people will like it. Yeah, there's a Maui, that's a good point. You know, when games used to... I think people still want games to be long, or they think they want it, but then I think people that play a lot of games just end up with the pile of shame. It started happening a lot in board games as well, because Kickstarter was like driving up the size of board games, adding loads and loads of additions to them to make the Kickstarters sell. And I think a lot of people have reverted to just give me a game that takes half an hour that comes in a tiny box, because I cannot fit any more of these unopened boxes on my shelf. Enemy tells show you the card they'll play next. There are different icons for attack, defense, special, and item. Tells also show who the enemy will attack. Okay, so we are gonna end up with a party of more than one person. You can mouse over an enemy to see what card they'll play next. Try to defend when the enemy is going to attack. Duh. You can also right-click a character to see more info. This is a very robust tutorial, but it kind of needs it, because the approach that's been taken here is perhaps strange in some places. I think my ideal game is a game that is short, it is very replayable, and you could potentially play it forever, but what it has to offer in terms of its main deal is over quite soon. So like you could, like the blueprints, right? There is stuff in the blueprints that if you were playing it independently and not using the internet to solve things would take you months and months to work out, because the puzzles are so strange and weird. But you can kind of complete the main thing of getting to the last room in like, I don't know, 10 hours or something like that, maybe less if you're really smart. And that kind of structure of having a thing you can complete in the game to feel like you've completed the game, and then you can end it there and just it still feels like a good value game, or there's all this extra stuff. I think that's kind of what most of us should be aiming for in what we're doing, depending on the sort of thing you're making. Obviously caveats doesn't apply to narrative games, you know. Continue with the bonus gold. These look very clickable, but they're not. This is definitely... I was supposed to be doing a Cornish... like a Cornish pirate accent. But it's sort of in the middle, isn't it? A dark elf. The dark elf is a dog? You again. Have we met? You would not have remembered. I am Nessia. Nessai. You were with the red-haired woman. Ruby? Wait, do you know where she is? I was hoping that you did. Pity, but I can't have you following me. Don't act so confident. Careful, lad. This fellow looks capable. Listen to your friend. It's Rida. It's got some, doing some gith swearing at me. So apparently the Cornwall accent that people do for pirates is just based on like one film adaptation of Treasure Island, where the actor decided that was what Long John Silver was going to sound like, and there's no historical reason why more pirates would be from Cornwall or something, but they just sort of that one movie has made that the pirate voice. Never seen before. Yeah, I think one UX thing about this game, I do think the never seen before screen needs to just darken everything to make it clear that this is a outside of combat thing that we're being shown here. That was a lot of cards. You might not be able to win this one. You'll need to use your momentum to keep up. My what? It's the cyan bar in the middle. Where is it? That one. If you fill it to 100, you'll get to play an extra hand. Oh, that's a nice feature. It builds with each hand, but decreases slowly during your turn. Play a card when you reach 100 to activate the burst, which is the extra hand. Okay. Wait, does that mean there's a real-time thing where... Okay, there's a real-time element where it's kind of forcing me to play the cards fast, which... I'm always a little bit wary of having games with lots of reading in and then real-time stuff, but the rules on these cards are not super complicated. They're very driven by iconography. There's not like a whole sentence here I have to pass in my head. But yeah, I'm always a bit wary when there's like text-driven stuff that I need to read and then I need to pay attention to a timer as well. But I think this card might get away with it. Parrying Dagger seems to have no art. Hello. Yeah, there's so much good kind of use of iconography in the text rather than just having a whole sentence that's saying, first remove 4 shield, then deal... it's such an important thing when you have, like... When you have iconography in your game to just use it consistently across text and stuff, rather than just having it... Rather than just having it in certain places and then not... And then putting, like, shield in text rather than a picture of a shield or whatever. Okay, I'm going to give myself some health back. I don't think this... I think this is an unwinnable fight, but... You know, when you get something this hard, this early into a game, it feels like it's deliberately unwinnable for story reasons. Go on. As expected. Farewell. Wait. He throws a smoke bomb and disappears. That guy. He used some pretty sick, advanced chain attacks. And I suppose you're going to tell me how those work now, eh? Nope. Never understood them much myself. Let's head back for now. What about the loot? Don't worry, you get another chance. Your loot is lost. Okay. Tutorializing failure as well. Something people forget to do sometimes, but your onboarding should include not an explanation, but a showcase of what failure in your game is, what the consequences of it are, because it's part of the game. Failure is part of your game. It is not like a thing to be totally avoided. It is part of baked into the loop of your game, so it needs to be part of what you show people. You know, this is what happens when you fail. This is what you lose, and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, the snout on the in-game character didn't look long enough to be a wolf. It looked like they called them a dark elf, and then the portrait was a wolf. So maybe that's just some stuff that's out of time with each other in terms of versions. I'm not ready for any more adventures just yet. Just as well. Well, let's regroup at the guild hall for now. I think maybe, I just don't know why these characters are black and white. Maybe it's like just they haven't been coloured in yet. I thought maybe they were ghosts. You have to pay your debt. We're doing some indentured servitude. We're doing some Animal Crossing, Nook Island stuff. You can't put a card in your deck unless you meet its requirements. Classless cards only have a brown square level requirement. Class cards require different amounts of strength, agility, or magic. Okay. Strength, agility, reduce your timer, magic increases your maximum deck size. He's an agility guy. That's your class. Rogue cards require an agility. Okay. When you gain a level, all 3 of your attributes go up. Give me some cards. Give me some cards. Go into the shop. This is nice as well. Look, you can mouse over the buildings, or you can do this and it still highlights which building they are. Good. It's almost like this person understands that an interface-driven game, in an interface-driven game, the interface is the game. Rather than just some annoying buttons that you just rush out and go, here you go, here's a game. It's got some buttons in. Maybe press them, maybe something will happen. Restock the shop. I can get a... Okay, so... Do you know what? We can get classless cards. Standard pack, classless pack, rogue pack. Steal this pack. Very funny. Backstab or Caltrops? I'll go for Backstab. Does more damage to an undamaged enemy. Gut Hook, find weakness. Next, I'll be taking you to the library. It's a very, very long onboarding, but it's a complicated game, and you kind of need it. I would like to have done more battles at this point, I would say, given how long this has been running on for, but I don't know. So we're onboarding into all of the upgrading stuff now. And I guess maybe that's just the pace of the game, but I think maybe I would have liked to have... I haven't basically... I've done a couple of combats, but they've all been curated tutorial combats, and I don't feel like I've done the core game yet. Everything is like on rails to teach me the game. And I really want something at this stage where it's just... Yeah, go wild, go and whack some goblins on your own type thing. Right, I missed all that because I was talking over it. Oh, this is... Okay, this is where I actually pick the 8 cards that are in my character's deck. Gotcha, gotcha. I want Backstab. Find Weakness, Boot Knife. Throwing Dagger. I don't have much in the way of shielding. Maybe a Parrying Dagger. Yeah. All of these menus are really nicely put together. Very brown, though. But it means that once we've got these kind of coloured elements, they really, really stand out. You're back, then. Yeah, how'd it go with Albrecht? Looks like I'll need to prepare for more guildsmen on my own. Okay. I would like to go back to the stables and finish my adventure. There's my adventure in the forest outskirts. I'm going to do this last combat, and then that's probably the end for today, because I've got other stuff to crack on with. Okay, Backstab is for using on the first turn, I guess, because I can't use it if they're already damaged. So that grayed out card was one I was discarding to get more energy for next turn, I think. I think that's how it works. Redraw. Boot Knife. Throwing Dagger. Just saying the names of all the moves. Throwing Dagger! Oh, I do want to see a little bit more of this. Give me the gold. Let's do... Okay, yeah, we'll do the actual progression through the adventure. Poison? I will always poison build if your game has a poison build in it. Healing potion. So the items are still cards, but they burn when you've used them. there's no sound in this game yet. No, unfortunately, Smugpar. I did offer to do it for them. I think that if I can do it all in a day, I would just sit and do a stream and come up with all the sound effects. But that would not include deciding what things need sound effects. I would need a shopping list. I would need someone to say, here are all the things we need sound effects for, and then I would go, okay. And then I would make them all with my mouth. Music has stopped. One more time. There we go. Reroll. The redraw mechanic is great, because only having two to pick from is very, very limiting. So having a way of mitigating how narrow that is a good. Everything should have sound effects. Yeah, I mean, that is the correct answer, yeah. Okay, I'm choosing the option that gets rid of the items and gives you gold instead. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. But it's fine. A chilling howl. See, I think these should have like just horrible sketchy placeholder art in, so we still have a little memory thing of knowing what picture each card has. I feel like this is a game that's built by a very, very competent pixel artist, or has a very competent pixel artist on the team, and they don't want to include any sort of placeholder art, which I understand. But if it was done in sort of like a grey and black thing, so you could very easily tell what was placeholder, then the part of the problem is in card games, the image is like a mnemonic to help you remember what the rest of the card does, so you don't have to read it every time. Because I'm not going to know from the title of the card what the card does, but the image, I will get an association that oh, that's the card that gives me block and doesn't attack. That's how cards work generally. There's a mnemonic function to the picture that is maybe more important than whether the picture is pretty. You're supposed to fix my cards or something? Okay, folks, I'm going to end that one there. The links for the games that were on the stream this week are in the stream description, or should be. I'm still black and white from my escapade in this game. Let me just restore my colour so that I don't come into the next stream and go, what's happened? What's happened here? How about this? Is that too much? This is the sort of 90s grunge music video thing. Oversaturate, hue shift. Hey, I'm in the Black Hole Sun video. The stream that is just a stream that is just making all of the sound effects of a game by just making mouth noises. Kind of like when you see people score silent movies. Have you seen these events where you can go see a silent movie and there's like a band playing along to the silent movie or something? Do that, but with games. Click. Click. Boo. Boo. Hang on, it's sorry. I think this could work. Maybe I'll make another channel just doing this. I feel like there's a good through line between silent movies and video games, because you've got things that are like acting like people, but you do need to exaggerate a lot to make people even pay attention to anything or know that something that is happening is relevant, you know? You did it. I really enjoyed this. I quite like this game. It's very, very slow to onboard you, but there's quite a lot of complicated systems here. But they do stuff. It's not just, you're going to like get told, oh, you can upgrade this, and then you go into combat and it's just like pressing 3 buttons in a random order, which kind of, the first 2 games did feel a little bit like that to me. And that is always a problem. Maybe some people like games where you just press 3 buttons in a random order, but I imagine they can get those games for free on a mobile phone. So the problem isn't games where you press 3 buttons in a random order. The problem is games where you press 3 buttons in a random order that costs $10, $20, $30. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. This one, really neat. Cards of Candlewood. I can't remember if that was a private playtest. Doesn't look like it was. Every time we do one of these streams, I put links to the games here. So if you want to go and check them out in your own time, you can do. Oh, it's just the chat. We're in chatception. So yeah, got links to Astral Arena is on itch. It does have a Steam page. If you saw Astral Arena and you liked it, you thought, oh, I like Pokemon, and this game could be good when it's a bit more polished. That game does have a Steam page as well. You can go and wishlist it. Dark Cards of Candlewood, prototype that's up on itch with no sound, like I just saw. No sound, missing some card art. Really, really interesting set of mechanics. Interesting use of deck building and real-time mechanics at the same time. And Eclipse Breaker was that first one that we looked at, which was like a sort of someone's going to have to help me out with here with what games this was like. ATB type, sort of late 90s vibe. Interesting. Really liked the conceit of the story and how they made that game into a roguelike and how they explained the looping. Really, really nice illustration. Most of the art, fantastic. A few bits just not being very well communicated in terms of how the mechanics work moment to moment. There's like some battle queuing stuff that just didn't have enough communication to it. So I think this one was interesting. Some annoying marketing practices of like constantly trying to push you out of the game to go to the newsletter and stuff like that, which turned me off a little bit. Maybe other people won't be bothered by that, but that's the sort of thing where I'm likely to end playing a game prematurely on a stream, because we do this to sort of look at games and critique them and think about game design. This is not a stream that is here just to sort of promote games. So when I get a demo and it is doing stuff like that, I find it deeply irritating. But yeah, hope you enjoyed today's stream. Thank you for dropping